勝負だカカロット。こいベジータ。
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are. My name is AS and welcome to my YouTube channel. I hope you all had a good start to 2026 and I hope that your year is going to be fruitful financially and mentally. Since we kicked off the year not too long ago and this channel is primarily about gaming, I would like to look ahead and talk about the 10 video games that excite me the most in 2026. Whether it's an anticipated sequel, a new IP with an original concept, or a game that borrows an aspect or two from another beloved title, the following 10 picks have the potential to keep my passion for gaming alive throughout the year and beyond. Before we begin, there are a couple of points that I need to mention. On one hand, please keep in mind that the ranking of these video games does not reflect on their quality. It is possible that the number 10 slot will be a better game than the number 3 slot. The ranking is based on the amount of hype that I have for each of these games. On the other hand, this ranking is entirely subjective. If you have a different list, please share them in the comment section so we can discuss them. Without further ado, here are my top 10 most anticipated video games of 2026. Number 10, Reanimal. Back in 2017, developer Tarsier Studios released an indie game called Little Nightmares, which gave me the vibe of a horror Disney film. Although the design of the protagonist can put everyone at ease, everything else about the game was the stuff of nightmares. The story was intense, the obstacles were incredibly creepy, and the inability to protect yourself will always add to the game's tension. The sequel came out in 2021 and it improved upon its predecessor while also adding one of the most messed up endings I've ever experienced in gaming. Sadly, the series is not all, ironically enough, sunshine and rainbows. Little Nightmares 3 came out last year and despite being developed by a different yet larger studio, it is easily the black sheep of the series with a terrible AI system and an experience that was less scary than the first entries in the series. Thankfully, Tarsier Studios are making a comeback this year with the release of Reanimal. I purposefully avoided any coverage of it because of spoilers, but the trailers thus far give me hope that Reanimal will follow the roots of Little Nightmares 1 and 2 as opposed to Little Nightmares 3. Will it be a success? We will have to wait and see when Reanimal releases on February 13th. Number 9, Mouse, PI for Hire. The next indie game on this list resembles a previously released title. This time, it is Cuphead, a game released by studio MDHR in 2017 that was specifically praised for its stunning presentation, whether it was the animations, the level designs, or the soundtrack. Cuphead may be a brutal platformer, but the similarity to old-school cartoons is the title's silver lining. Mouse PI for Hire appears to follow in Cuphead's footsteps, but switches up the genre to a first-person shooter. The sound effects of the guns, the music playing in the background, and the enemy design will grant your wish if you ever wish to place yourself inside an old-school cartoon. Mouse PI for Hire will release on March 19th, and I hope that it will not raise my blood pressure as Cuphead did back in 2017. Number 8, 007 First Light. I will be honest and admit that the only game based on the 007 IP that I have ever played was Rogue Agent on the Nintendo DS. It was one of the first Nintendo DS games that I have ever played, which meant that I naturally gave it some passes due to the addictive nature of the handheld's stylus. I never played what is arguably the best 007 game out there, that being GoldenEye on the Nintendo 64, and I have never played any of the other video games starring James Bond. 007 First Light takes an interesting route by focusing on the early days of James Bond as an assigned field agent, and it avoids any facial similarity to the previous actors who played the cinematic role. It may have showcased a concern in the frame rate department during the last couple of presentations, but 007 First Light has the potential to kickstart a franchise that will have the same presence as Hitman or Uncharted. 007 First Light will release on May 27th. Number 7. Grand Theft Auto 6. I'm known for a hot take here and there, so let's get it out of the way. Grand Theft Auto 6 is an automatic Game of the Year contender. I will play it, you will play it, your neighbor will play it, your boss will play it. The day it releases will be a national holiday in the United States, and the amount of people that will call off work to play the first several hours of Grand Theft Auto 6 could be featured in the headline news. With that being said, here's my hot take. I would not be one of those people that will forego work for Rockstar's next blockbuster. Will I play it at launch? Absolutely. At the same time, Grand Theft Auto has never been a monumental franchise to me. It is always fun to run around, cause havoc, listen to a fantastic soundtrack, and experience a roller coaster of a narrative, but I would lie if I said that I'm super hyped for it. This opinion may convince you to question the follow-up entries in the video, but rest assured that I will still play it at launch, I will still love it, and I will most likely place it in my video this upcoming December about my top 10 games of 2026. Grand Theft Auto 6 will release on November 19th. Number 6. LEGO Batman: Legacy of the Dark Knight. The LEGO IP is absolutely massive in the video game industry, with well over 200 titles being released since 1995. My first LEGO video game was LEGO Star Wars, which was released in 2005 and gave you the opportunity to relive specific moments in the first 6 films in a quirky yet cute way. I have not played every LEGO game since then, but I will tell you the following. In 2024, LEGO Star Wars The Skywalker Saga was released, and it was not only my favorite video game that year, but it also set a new bar for LEGO games in terms of presentation and gameplay mechanics. The addition of voiceovers was also a fresh inclusion that elevated the intended jokes and the storyline itself. LEGO Batman: Legacy of the Dark Knight aims to follow in the Skywalker Saga's footsteps while implementing gameplay mechanics that are similar to the popular Batman Arkham series. Furthermore, it appears that it will serve as a way to highlight some of the best parts of multiple Batman movies, as opposed to focusing on a single timeline or trilogy. LEGO Batman: Legacy of the Dark Knight already looks leaps and bounds beyond the previous LEGO Batman games, but it's also on the right path to be the best LEGO video game of all time. Only time will tell if this prediction becomes a spoiler. LEGO Batman: Legacy of the Dark Knight will release on May 29th. Number 5. Resident Evil Requiem. Although I troll a certain Resident Evil game from time to time, Resident Evil has some bangers and proves its prowess as a powerhouse in the horror genre of video games. Whether it is a remake of a classic title, a fun co-op game, or a duo of video games that justify a reason to purchase a PlayStation virtual reality set, Resident Evil certainly has its high points. Resident Evil Requiem aims to do away with the cause of tension in Resident Evil 7 Village and return to the classic menace of the series, zombies. The point that intrigues me the most about Resident Evil Requiem is the duality of its gameplay. If you are placed in the shoes of Grace Ashcroft, you will be forced to contend with the inability to defend yourself against the horrors of Resident Evil and hide for your life while trying to elude any threats. If you are playing the role of Leon S. Kennedy, you will relive the glory days of Resident Evil 4 and use everything at your disposal to beat the ever-living crap out of your opponents. Resident Evil Village is my favorite game in the series, and while I have my doubts that Requiem will top it, I have confidence that Capcom will deliver a solid entry in the series. Resident Evil Requiem will release on February 27th. Number 4. Phantom Blade Zero. I've played many wonderful action games in my life. Nier Automata asks you to complete 3 playthroughs, but the story is well worth it. Sifu punishes you for failure, but the impact of every punch and kick is second to none. Asura's Wrath is more cinematic than most action games out there, but those cutscenes are a sight to behold. Even though I know jack all about the game's narrative, Phantom Blade Zero takes the impact of Sifu's combat and the ridiculousness of Asura's Wrath cinematics and brings them to an insane level. When the debut trailer was released, the only thought that crossed my mind was, how in the blue hell will the developers streamline the movements that the trailer showcases? How they will make them easy to perform? I am pleased to report that most of my research previews have confirmed that the combat in Phantom Blade Zero is not too complicated to execute. If that is true, and the title isn't as ball-busting as a From Software video game or the Ninja Gaiden series, Phantom Blade Zero could last 5 hours and I will have one heck of a time. Phantom Blade Zero will release on September 9th. Number 3. Pragmata. One of the unfortunate circumstances that comes with oversaturation of video games is the lack of creativity. How many times can we be excited for a Call of Duty video game that will be 90% identical to its predecessors in the gameplay department? How often can we be hyped for a sports game, knowing that an upcoming release is essentially a simple roster update? The insinuation that gaming is dry is factually not true, but it does not mean that oversaturation is a fantasy. Pragmata has similarities to other games in specific areas. You take care of a younger NPC, just like Death Stranding and God of War. The visuals are slick, just like Vanquish. However, the aspect that is completely unique to Pragmata is its shooting mechanics. In order to seriously damage your opponent, you need to complete a short hacking minigame that includes a quick puzzle. It may lead to frustrations while playing on the hard difficulty settings, but it leads to the urgency of picking the right opportunity to eliminate your enemies and guarantee your child's safety. I was interested in Pragmata prior to the gameplay showcase due to the principle behind the game's tale, but the combat's reveal only added to my level of hype. Pragmata will be released on April 24th. Number 2. Saros. Despite its transition to PC, I always considered Returnal as PlayStation 5's greatest exclusive. The intense roguelike mechanics, the beautiful and numerous animations that can pop up at any time, and the intriguing tale that reveals its layers slowly but surely after every attempt, combined to create an experience that not only I platinumed twice, but I also attempted and succeeded on No Death Run that you can check out on my Twitch channel's highlights. Forgive the shameless plug. I'm talking about Returnal because the people behind the title, House Marquee, are currently working on their next game, which is my second most hyped video game of 2026. In hindsight, Saros looks like a continuation of Returnal. The combat system is similar with a few tweaks and improvements, the dash mechanic is practically identical, and the enemies continue to bombard you with bullets. None of these points are necessarily bad, and only serve to force me to smile from ear to ear. In addition, the story appears to be more cinematic this time around, which is a nice touch, considering how Returnal's plot, while great, can be cryptic on several occasions. If you ask me to summarize the title storyline, I will honestly have to resort to Google for some assistance. If Saros is anywhere near Returnal in terms of its quality and fun factor, Saros has a strong chance of being listed as a Game of the Year contender. Saros will be released on April 30th. Number 1. Yakuza Kiwami 3 and Dark Ties. It could be recency bias due to my trip to Japan back in November, as well as my recent playthrough of Yakuza Kiwami 2, but it was an obvious choice from the get-go as to my most anticipated video game of 2026. Both Yakuza 0 and Kiwami encouraged me to fall in love with Kazuma Kiryu and Goro Majima, and Kiwami 2 impressed me to the point that I had no choice but to earn its Platinum Trophy, despite my current hatred of Mahjong. If Yakuza 3 did not receive a remake this year, I would have played Yakuza 4 by this point in 2026. However, I will be patient if it means that I will experience a hopeful improvement to the original Yakuza 3. In addition, the remake will include a full standalone game called Dark Ties, which serves as a prequel story that will definitely be played prior to placing myself back in the shoes of Kazuma Kiryu. The visuals will receive their expected upgrade, and the combat system is anticipated to be more impactful than any of the other Yakuza games. It will be an odd transition when I inevitably have to jump to Yakuza 4 from the remake of its predecessor, but Yakuza Kiwami 3 and its included Dark Ties experience will create a collection that, as of now, must be highlighted as my most anticipated gaming experience of 2026. Well folks, that's the end of the video. Thank you very much for checking it out. What is your most anticipated video game of 2026? Does your game have a release window in 2026 but not a concrete release date? Please let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. Till next time, have a great day or evening wherever you are. My name is AS, and I will see you guys in the next video. Bye bye.